When someone asked you what your most memorable moment was in Call of Duty, what did you say? Perhaps you talked about the nuke scene in 2007's Modern Warfare. Or maybe it was the No Russian mission in 2009's Modern Warfare 2. For me personally, the most talked about moment was Ghost's death. The betrayal of Shepard to 141 and how it all played out. The music, the characters, and the overall story of these games really pulled at those heartstrings and proved just how attached we had become to these characters. When people are asked about those times, they can usually, even years later, describe in detail their favorite most memorable moments within the franchise. The original Modern Warfare series was brought up in an era where trilogies were kind of a staple for concurrent business models at the time. Back then, multiplayer games were fairly young, or at least still developing their identity in terms of a legitimized genre. Having a multiplayer mode alongside a campaign was more of a fun little bonus rather than an interwoven part of the intended experience. I go so far as to even say that it wasn't until Modern Warfare 2 when the multiplayer experience for the Call of Duty franchise was truly grafted within the confines of the Call of Duty community. When it came to the release of the new Modern Warfare 2, I think all the teams at Activision really knew that they had some pretty big shoes to fill. When people talk about the best in Call of Duty, they often refer to the classic era of Modern Warfare, with 2009's Modern Warfare 2 being seen as kind of the golden age for the franchise itself. Activision knew that the bar was set high. This was no joke, and they knew it. What's crazy is that they only really had a full year to make this game happen. If you finish the campaign and watch the credits, it just goes on and on and on and on and on. It comes as no surprise that so many studios, so many people, so much blood, sweat, and tears came into the production of this game. So much money and effort just to merely try at not setting, but also surpassing the bar that the original Modern Warfare 2 had set for them. But I guess that's the big question, isn't it? Did they set the bar? Did they surpass it? After playing the campaign for Modern Warfare 2, in my opinion at least, I think they definitely, at the very least, set the bar. And I'll tell you why. For starters, let's get the simple comparisons out the way, okay? The game looks good, it feels good, but god damn... But with today's technology, I don't think it's that hard to make something look good anymore. The technology we have is advanced enough to where looking good and sounding good really should be about aesthetic, which at this point is the art style that the game has set for itself. That is, or rather should be, the standard that any game should set at that point. But what about the story? What about the gameplay? I feel the best way to approach these questions is to look not with today's modern technology, but to look at the past, at the old Modern Warfare 2, and compare what each game has to bring. It's also worth noting that the Infinity Ward that you and I know now today is vastly different than the Infinity Ward that developed the original Modern Warfare trilogy back in the early late 2000s, when you and I were still kids in school. That's not to discount what today's Infinity Ward has done here, okay? But 2009's Modern Warfare 2 is seen as the golden point for the community because it brought on so much. The characters, the cinematics, the music, the dynamics, the action, everything. All of this stuffed into a campaign on top of the characters we had already known and loved, right? And then there's, of course, the breathtaking moments and missions. In comparison to 2022's Modern Warfare 2, Jesus fuck, that's a lot of twos, it had a decent mix that the classic had originally introduced. They had covert missions like kill or capture.
There's a wound going down! We're going down!
Hold up.
Missions like this that really brought on that tactical knit and grit that I love so much within a first-person shooter. Alright? They also mix this in with action-packed missions such as cartel protection.
We'll be there. Contact RPG! On the ridge!
where missions like that keep the hype going and keep you grounded in the reality of the story within the game, reminding you of the bumpy rock slide of a shitstorm that you find your characters, that you find yourself and your character in.
Copy. On me.
Following through with what we've already put in front of us, they thicken the icing on the cake with unique and iconic missions such as Death from Above.
Shadow 1, good effect on target. We're moving up.
Did anyone else notice the attention to detail with these missions? My favorite part about this one specifically is not only can you hear the blast from your AC-130 through Price's microphone, but when you shoot the big missile and it explodes, there's a moment after the explosion where your plane actually shakes, feeling the force of the impact.
Cartel, gas station.
I don't know, that was just a really cool thing that, you know, something that they didn't have to do, but they did, and it's fucking awesome.
Cartel at the gas station.
Mix this in with those dramatic moments of the cinematics, and you really tie it all together for a hook, line, and sinker type of cinematic first-person shooter experience.
Go, Johnny! Get out of there! So, go!
Although I'll admit, they stayed away from the whole lot of original content as far as the story goes, trying to stay out of the whole copy-paste aspect that some games bring onto themselves nowadays, which I can actually respect, given that it's completely different staff at the helm of Infinity Ward. I could tell what they were doing, you know, they tried to bring back all the good shit while trying to be original with their own version of the story. What I find special is that they stuck to the nitty-gritty aspect of that which is Modern Warfare, rather than stuffing some woke undertone bullshit into it, unlike most Disney movies nowadays.
Literally get murdered. So I'm an expert at controlling my anger because I do it infinitely more than you.
Sit there, eat it up. Go play okay, 3, 2, 1. You know I'm the.
The point is, they stayed away from the cringe and stuck to what Modern Warfare actually is. They stuck to the boundaries, they respected the franchise in that way, which I very much appreciate. Now, comparing this to 2019's Modern Warfare, I feel as though it vastly improved in terms of story development, character development, as well as overall world progression. You know, going in on this campaign for the first time, I had expectations, but I don't think I ever really expected what each mission was going to be like. For me at least, there was no way to predict what was going to happen within the next mission. And each mission proved very unique in its own way. The characters and the missions and even the factions are memorable to a veritable degree. You know, if there was anything I was going to be disappointed about, it was going to be the lack of Russian in the campaign. But then we get hit with this sweetie little clip.
Дамы и господа, наш самолет завершил набор высоты. Вы можете расстегнуть ремни.
Сейчас вам будет подан обед. Горячий вы можете выбрать в меню.
Beef, chicken, or fish, gentlemen?
Salads, please.
not gonna lie, my excitement shot through the roof when I saw this clip. Everybody in Call of Duty, everybody within the Call of Duty community knows that No Russian was one of, if not the most memorable missions in Call of Duty history. And everybody around the world at that time knew that it was one of the most memorable moments in gaming history. This one mission aired on the news. Right? Let that sink in. A video game mission, unimportant to real world life, aired on the news as a headline. It was no longer talked about solely within the gaming community, but the world itself was in shock and awe over this one mission. I mean, how do you top that? How do you top that? Regardless, Activision is telling us that there's more to the story. Now, whether or not they're done with Modern Warfare 2's campaign development is beyond me, and if I'm being honest, I really hope they push through with more campaign content for this game, especially with it being a 2-year roadmap rather than one. And if I'm being brutally honest, I really, really hope that they put No Russian in on Modern Warfare 2 specifically, rather than cutting to the little snippets of, you know, cinematics here and there for Warzone, which, if they do that, I'm sorry, it would be super fucking lame, and, in my opinion, a missed opportunity. Like, seriously, can you imagine the balls you'd have to put a mission like No Russian in on a game, especially in today's quote-unquote triggered society? I know Activision has gotten a bad rap here and there, alright, and that's duly credited, alright, and I know that they have a carefree attitude when listening to their community's critiques, but I'll admit, I'd give them mad respect if they were to put that kind of raw savagery in on a game and like that in today's modern Twitter-happy dystopia. I can already predict how the hormone-raging teenagers would react. You know the people that I'm talking about. The people who aren't even in on the community, you know, who don't even care about Call of Duty, who don't even know who Ghost or Soap or Price is. They just rant and then forget about it afterwards. Like, they have the attention span of a fucking goldfish. And if you were to catch their attention, I don't know, I'd be honest, I'd love to see that happen. It means Activision did a good job, which is setting the reality for the tone that this game is meant to set. Especially if they get the same worldwide reaction that the classic Modern Warfare 2 mission brought into the fray. I mean, okay, not that it's gonna happen, you know, people are so much more desensitized nowadays than what they were back then, but that kind of reaction nowadays is more of a slim to none chance, sure, but I'm just saying, it would be pretty cool. It would be pretty cool. But getting back to the question at hand, did they meet expectations? Did they set or surpass the bar that 2009 had originally laid out for them? It comes as no surprise that it's difficult to work in the shadow of a legend, okay? But in terms of their most recent work and how it played out, at the very least, I'd say they definitely set the bar for what was already established by the old Infinity Ward. Now, as far as, you know, to whether or not they surpassed the bar, you know, did better than the classics is beyond me. It's beyond me. I mean, I guess at that point, it's all within the eye of the beholder. But all in all, if your passion is with Call of Duty, in my opinion, you really should be happy with the campaign. Or at the very least, acknowledge that it isn't a straight-up disservice to the franchise. It's not the OG story we know and love, true, but it's not like Activision bastardized the story in any way. They simply went a different route with the story, in a more streamlined setting with better technology at their fingertips. Characters aren't edited in any way, they still act very much like the way they did back then. Any new characters brought into the scene are memorable and contribute to the story overall. The gameplay is intense, and each mission has something unique to bring within the campaign itself. And it even goes so far as to provide a unique player experience. Like, if you're unhappy with this campaign, I'd honestly be very curious to know what would make you happy within a Call of Duty game, because between the looks, the sounds, the characters, the story, the overall gameplay experience, there's just really not much room to be disappointed in, you know? But then again, that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. If you're unhappy with how they made this new Modern Warfare 2, why? I would honestly like to know why. What could they have done better? What could they have changed? Leave a comment down below and tell me your thoughts on this Modern Warfare 2 campaign. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing, and be prepared for tomorrow because multiplayer hits. And with that, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.
3, 2, 1.
Fucking hell. Direct. Target destroyed.